Welcome, curious minds. Today, we're diving deep into a really extensive collection of sources.
Yeah.
They offer a fascinating, sometimes pretty eye-opening look at the early actions and, well, the blueprint shaping our current political landscape.
Right.
Our mission here, FIFO, is really to unearth the crucial insights from this significant initiative and its real-world implications. Basically, giving you that shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll be sifting through, everything from detailed policy docs and internal reports to the latest news cycles, trying to paint a comprehensive picture of the vision behind some, well, major shifts in government and beyond. What's truly fascinating, I think, is how quickly these proposed changes are starting to manifest. Touching upon everything from the foundational structure of federal agencies all the way to financial markets, and even how public sentiment is responding to it all.
Okay, let's unpack this then. So our sources introduce us to what's known as Project 2025. This is an initiative spearheaded by the Heritage Foundation, right? A prominent conservative think tank.
That's the one.
And this isn't just like a list of ideas. It's a remarkably comprehensive plan, first published back in April 2023, and it seems clearly anticipating a specific outcome for the 2024 presidential election.
That's absolutely right. The core document, it's officially titled Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise, and it is incredibly extensive. We're talking 920 pages.
Wow.
Yeah. And what's really noteworthy here is the sheer number of its writers and contributors who, previously served in the first Trump administration or were involved in the 2024 campaign.
Okay.
So you have figures like Russ Vought, who was Trump's OMB director first time around. He's not only back in that role, but also led a group specifically drafting executive orders for, rapid
Right,
action.
tracking things.
Exactly. John Ratcliffe is back as CIA director. Peter Navarro, top trade advisor. He's returned as senior counselor for trade and manufacturing. And the Heritage Foundation itself, they spent a significant $22 million specifically preparing staffing recommendations for a conservative government in 2025. That just underscores the depth of the planning here.
And this project, from what I understand, it isn't just about specific policies, is it? It seems built on a rather expansive and quite particular idea of presidential power.
It absolutely is, yeah. It's deeply rooted in a controversial interpretation of what's called the unitary executive theory.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Well, this theory, in its, let's say, most expansive form, asserts that the president has complete, singular control over the entire executive branch. It really minimizes the independence of federal agencies.
So centralizing power.
Pretty much. Proponents argue it's about, dismantling an unaccountable bureaucracy, making government more responsive. However, critics have forcefully labeled it, and this is their language, an authoritarian Christian nationalist plan.
Strong words.
Very strong. They argue it could steer the U.S. toward autocracy, potentially undermining fundamental principles like the rule of law, separation of powers, the division of church and state, civil liberties. It's a really foundational philosophical concept that kind of shapes everything else in the project.
Okay, so with this extensive blueprint now laid out, the immediate question for a lot of people must be, how quickly and how profoundly are these detailed plans actually shaping reality on the ground?
Right.
Our sources seem to reveal that many of the early executive actions taken since January directly reflect Project 2025's proposals. It gives us a clear window into the scale of transformation already underway.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, many of these early executive actions, they really do mirror or partially mirror the Project 2025 proposals. It signals a pretty rapid enactment of a pre-planned playbook, almost like it's being rolled out systematically.
And what we're seeing first are some truly significant federal agency overhauls and reductions.
Yeah.
It looks almost like a systematic reimagining of the administrative state.
Precisely. Yeah, this isn't just about minor tweaks. It's a push for fundamental restructuring. The aim seems to be returning more power to states and also centralizing control within the executive.
Okay, like what?
Well, for instance, Republicans have long called for dismantling the Department of Education. Project 2025 recommended its complete elimination. And Mr. Trump has already begun this process with a March executive order cutting staff, planning to move functions to other agencies.
But can he just eliminate it like that?
Well, full elimination, it's worth noting, still requires an act of Congress. So the executive order starts the process, but Congress has the final say on abolishing it entirely.
Got it. I've also seen reports about changes to FEMA. That seems to be another area targeted for pretty significant change.
That's right. Yeah, the discussions around the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, they really underscore this broader aim of reducing the federal reach. Mr. Trump established a review council for FEMA, signed an executive order back in March to increase state and local roles in preparedness.
Hmm.
And this follows his very public suggestion that he could, quote, get rid of FEMA, stating that's what states are for, which has, understandably sparked concerns about FEMA's disaster assistance capabilities, especially after some aid requests were denied for severe storms in places like Arkansas, flooding in West Virginia, other storms out in Washington.
And it seems other federal agencies are also kind of on the chopping block, targeted for elimination or at least severe downsizing.
Absolutely. Project 2025 calls for the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, the Weather and Climate Agency.
Yeah.
It calls for it to be dismantled, its functions either eliminated, moved, privatized, or state-controlled. It specifically targets NOAA's Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, OAR, which it labels the source of much of NOAA's climate alarmism.
Climate alarmism. Well,
That's the term they use. And on the national security front, the project suggests abolishing the Department of Homeland Security, DHS.
abolishing DHS.
Replacing it, the plan says, with a new consolidated immigration agency. It would integrate Customs and Border Protection, CBP, the TSA, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, other relevant services, basically centralizing immigration enforcement under one roof.
So with these dramatic shifts in agency structure, a critical question immediately comes to mind. Who exactly would staff and operate this restructured government?
Yeah, that's crucial. And this is where Project 2025 proposes a truly foundational shift in the federal workforce itself.
That's so.
It strongly advocates for reinstating something called Schedule F. This was a job classification Mr. Trump initially established in his first term, which President Biden later rescinded.
Schedule F, what does that do?
Okay, so this change would reclassify tens of thousands of merit-based federal civil service workers, the ones who typically have job security, hired based on qualifications. It reclassifies them as political appointees.
Ah, so easier to hire and fire based on loyalty.
That's exactly the concern critics raise. It fundamentally changes their employment status, allowing them to be replaced with individuals loyal to the administration. Critics argue it enables firing employees without cause, replacing them with loyalists. And they raise significant concerns about, destroying the administrative state, increasing risks of corruption.
Right.
And on his first day back, Mr. Trump also issued a memo freezing federal civilian hiring until July 15th. The stated aim was reducing the federal workforce, although Project 2025 itself acknowledges that past attempts at these large-scale reductions haven't always led to permanent and substantive reductions.
And it goes beyond just hiring freezes, doesn't it? It seems to extend to who has access, security clearances, even who serves in the military.
It does, yeah. Mr. Trump has taken executive action to begin revoking the security clearances of dozens of former intelligence officials and prominent Democrats. That includes former President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. It's a move that has certainly drawn fire from those concerned about political retribution. He also directed the Secretaries of Defense or Homeland Security to reinstate service members who were discharged for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine.
With back pay.
With former rank, full back pay, benefits, and compensation, according to the directive.
Okay. Shifting gears a bit now to social and cultural policy.
Right.
What are we seeing play out in this area based on the plan?
Right. Here we see a pretty clear push to redefine federal policy across several fronts. Mr. Trump signed an executive order on day one ending all diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI programs within the federal government.
Why? What was the reasoning?
The claim was that they can violate civil rights laws and exclude Americans. Project 2025 goes further, actually labeling DEI state-sanctioned racism.
State-sanctioned racism.
That's the phrase used in the document. It outlines plans to fire federal employees involved in such programs and even advocates for the Department of Justice to prosecute what it calls anti-white racism.
Okay. Heavy stuff. What else?
Another significant directive concerns the ability of federal healthcare providers to deny gender-affirming care to transgender youth. This one has been met with immediate lawsuits. It's currently blocked by 2 federal district courts, though those injunctions are being appealed, so that's ongoing.
And there's a rather unexpected, specific focus on pornography as well. I saw that mentioned.
Indeed, yeah, it's a very specific stance that might surprise some listeners, given, the breadth of other topics. Project 2025's mandate actually argues pornography isn't protected by the First Amendment and should be banned.
I'm banned outright.
And it recommends criminal prosecution for producers. And in a rather striking statement, the project's architect, Kevin Roberts, suggested that Mr. Trump, despite his own past, could be a powerful advocate against pornography, explaining, and this is a direct quote, "Our Lord works with imperfect instruments."
That's certainly a frank admission. Brings a very unique perspective to an already controversial policy area. What about the highly contentious issues of abortion and reproductive health care?
Yeah, this is another area where Project 2025 proposes a really dramatic reshaping of federal policy. The proponents maintain that life begins at conception. They envision the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, becoming what they actually call the Department of Life.
The Department of Life.
Yes, fundamentally aligning federal policy so that abortion is not considered health care. The proposals here are pretty extensive. They include reversing FDA approval of abortion pills, eliminating insurance coverage for emergency contraception, often called Plan B.
Plan B as well?
Yes. Restoring religious and moral exemptions to contraceptive requirements under the Affordable Care Act, and defunding Planned Parenthood. They also seek to remove protection for medical records involving abortions from criminal investigations if those records cross state lines.
Which could have huge implications for people traveling for care.
Absolutely. Significant implications.
Okay. Turning now to economic and regulatory directives.
Yeah.
How is this comprehensive plan playing out in the financial and environmental spheres?
Right. We're seeing significant shifts here, too, often with immediate impact. Back on February 7th, 2025, the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, announced a unilateral change to its maximum indirect cost rate for university research grants.
Indirect costs. What are those?
Basically, the overhead universities charge on grants to cover facilities, administration, things like that. The NIH dropped the maximum rate dramatically from 50% down to 15%.
50 to 15, that's huge.
It is. And this mirrors a recommendation from Project 2025, even though the project actually called on Congress to act. The NIH did it unilaterally.
The reaction.
Immediate legal challenges from universities, medical organizations. They're warning of a dire impact on life-saving research, including, ongoing clinical trials for cancer and Alzheimer's patients.
Wow. Okay, what else on the economic front?
Well, an April 23rd executive order directed the Education Secretary to enforce a Higher Education Act provision. It requires institutions getting federal funds to disclose foreign gifts or contracts valued at $250,000 or more annually. This was also supported by Project 2025, aimed at increasing transparency around foreign influence in academia.
And what about environmental policy? That's been a major point of contention.
Absolutely. Project 2025 advocates for dramatically reducing environmental regulations, generally to favor fossil fuels. This includes some really striking proposals, like eradicate climate change references from absolutely everywhere.
Eradicate them?
That's the language. Repealing emission curbing regulations, abolishing NOAA, as we discussed, and significantly downsizing the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA.
Okay. And taxes. Fiscal policy.
Yeah, the project offers various economic reforms. We're looking at a long-term shift, potentially, from an income tax to a consumption tax. Simplifying individual income taxes to just 2 flat rates, 15% up to the Social Security wage base, 30% above that, and reducing the corporate tax rate from 21% down to 18%.
And consolidating agencies, too.
Right. It suggests combining key economic data agencies, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, Census Bureau, Bureau of Labor Statistics, into just one entity.
And some major legislative changes have already happened this year, haven't they? Particularly in the fiscal and crypto spaces.
Indeed. Yeah, we saw the One Big Beautiful Bill Act signed into law on July 4th, 2025. This act combined a substantial $5 trillion in tax cuts with $1.1 trillion in spending reductions, and at the same time raised the national debt ceiling by $5 trillion.
$5 trillion in tax cuts, $1 trillion in spending cuts, $5 trillion debt ceiling raise. Big numbers.
Very big numbers. And on crypto regulation, which has been a hot topic, Mr. Trump signed the Genius Act on July 18th, 2025. This act establishes a federal framework for stablecoins.
Stablecoins, those are the ones pegged to regular currency.
Exactly. Pegged to something like the US dollar, designed to maintain a stable value. The Genius Act puts oversight primarily with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC.
Okay. Moving on to national security and international posture. What are the plans and early actions looking like here?
Project 2025 outlines a very assertive stance internationally. It proposes pressuring NATO members to significantly increase their military spending.
That sounds familiar.
It does. It also advocates for maintaining the U.S. nuclear umbrella only for NATO nations, developing new nuclear capabilities like the LGM-35 Sentinel missile,
Well,
testing more weapons, which, by the way, would violate the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty.
testing nukes again.
That's what the plan advocates, and expanding the pre-positioning of nuclear bombs in both Europe and Asia. Critics from the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists have called this, quote, the most dramatic buildup of nuclear weapons since the start of the Reagan administration. They're warning it could potentially trigger a new global nuclear arms race.
That's sobering. What about immigration enforcement?
The project outlines a sweeping policy, arresting, detaining, and removing immigration violators anywhere in the United States. Very broad. It also suggests withholding federal disaster relief funds from states that don't comply with federal immigration laws.
Using disaster relief as leverage.
That's the proposal. And there's been exploration of using the Insurrection Act to deploy the military for domestic law enforcement and immigration purposes.
Using the military domestically for immigration.
Okay.
Now, beyond these sweeping policy changes, our sources reveal something else that's garnered significant attention, perhaps even more so in this second term. The ongoing intertwining of presidential duties and Mr. Trump's private business interests. This seems to be a pattern that's only intensified, doesn't it?
It absolutely has. Yeah, according to one ethics watchdog group, we're seeing a scenario that is, in their words, orders of magnitude worse than his first term.
Orders of magnitude worse. Wow. Example.
Well, a prime example just happened on July 27th, 2025. Mr. Trump embarked on what was officially called a working visit to Scotland.
Okay, a working visit.
But this trip notably included golfing at Trump Turnberry and participating in a dedication and ribbon-cutting ceremony for a new 18-hole golf course at Trump International, Scotland. So it visually highlights this continued mixing of official duties with, personal business promotion.
And his personal branding ventures appear to be exceptionally lucrative still.
Oh, incredibly so. His latest financial disclosures reveal millions in earnings from various personal branding efforts. Things like over $1.3 million from Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA Bible.
A Bible, right.
$2.5 million from Trump sneakers and fragrances, $2.8 million from Trump watches, over $1 million from a 45 guitar. He also recently launched Trump Mobile, a wireless service, just constantly expanding the brand.
And the foreign deals, those seem to be growing too.
Significantly. Since returning to the White House, his family's business ties to the Middle East have reportedly more than tripled. This involves new licensing agreements with foreign developers using the Trump name, like a golf course in Qatar. He's also partnered with Levy Golf, which, as you know, is bankrolled by Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, deepening connections there.
I recall something particularly controversial about a private jet as well, from Qatar.
Yes, that definitely raised eyebrows. Perhaps most controversially, he accepted a luxury 747 jet from the government of Qatar as a gift.
A gift, a 747.
Yes, intended to be used as Air Force One, apparently, and later for his presidential library. Critics immediately protested this as a clear attempt to curry favor and a possible violation of the Foreign Emoluments Clause.
The Emoluments Clause, right, preventing foreign influence.
Exactly. It's a critical constitutional provision meant to prevent federal officials from receiving gifts or payments from foreign states without congressional approval, specifically to avoid undue influence. Despite these pretty significant legal and ethical concerns, Mr. Trump publicly dismissed them.
And his foray into crypto ventures has also certainly drawn attention, especially given the regulatory implications and the direct financial benefit.
Absolutely. Yeah, campaigning on being the most pro-crypto president, his administration has indeed eased regulations and established a Bitcoin reserve for the government. His financial disclosures show a remarkable $57 million from the sale of a cryptocurrency token.
$57 million from one token.
Through World Liberty Financial, which is described as a Trump family crypto exchange. Both he and his wife also launched what are known as meme coins.
Meme coins, like Dogecoin.
Kind of like that, yeah. Cryptocurrency is often created as a joke or based on internet memes, but they can gain significant value through speculation and hype. The value of his particular Trump coin spiked, and this led to private dinners and VIP receptions being offered for top holders.
So access for crypto holders.
That's exactly the criticism that it amounted to, effectively purchasing access to the president. And World Liberty Financial also secured a deal for $2 billion in deposits from a UAE venture fund, further deepening those international financial ties.
Okay, so with all these rapid changes, the policy shifts, the clear blending of public and private interests, what is the public making of all this, and how are these ambitious plans being challenged or countered?
Well, our sources indicate that while the public generally anticipates significant changes under this administration, opinion is quite split, really divided over whether these shifts will ultimately be good or bad for the country.
And the challenges.
Importantly, there are already ongoing court challenges to many of these early actions. Everything from the firing of agency heads to proposed changes regarding birthright citizenship, those NIH funding cuts we discussed earlier, the courts are definitely involved.
Interestingly, amidst all this, Mr. Trump himself has publicly sought to distance himself from Project 2025 specifically. What's behind that?
Yeah, that's a crucial point, and it creates a really interesting dynamic. He claims he knows, quote, nothing about Project 2025. He's even called some of its proposals ridiculous and abysmal.
Nothing. After all this.
That's the public claim. His campaign states that no outside group speaks for him, asserting that Agenda 47 is the only official plan. However, critics are very quick to point to the, numerous former Trump officials who are deeply involved in Project 2025. And the project director himself has confirmed ongoing connections with the Trump campaign. So it certainly creates a disconnect between the public statements and the, apparent operational reality.
Right. That brings us to another fascinating area.
Yeah.
What's truly shaping the minds of young voters right now. There was a July 2025 article noting a widely reported rightward shift among Gen Z men. But new polling suggests maybe it's more nuanced.
It does indeed. Yeah, new polling from the Young Men Research Project, or YMRP, suggests a more complex picture. While there's been talk of this shift, the YMRP polling actually shows that a considerable number of young men who voted for Mr. Trump in 2024 no longer view him favorably.
Oh, really? How much of a shift?
We're talking about maybe a 5–8% shift since January. The reasons include complaints about the economy, but also a feeling that Mr. Trump turned out to be more extreme than they expected. It kind of reminds us that the youngest voters, they're often less ideologically fixed. They still have a capacity for surprise.
And what about the influence of things like broadcasts or the manosphere?
Well, interestingly, while those things are influential online, the survey suggests many young men watch these far-right influencers primarily for entertainment, not necessarily for agreement or to adopt their political viewpoints.
So entertainment, not ideology necessarily. And what about the widely discussed loneliness crisis among young men? Does that correlate with these political shifts?
The survey reveals, 54% of young men report experiencing loneliness. That's a significant statistic. However, it doesn't directly correlate with extremist political views in this study.
Oh, interesting.
Instead, the study found a stronger correlation between loneliness and things like online gambling and pornography consumption. And perhaps surprisingly, while many young men do value traditional goals like marriage and family, a majority also support progressive social programs, things like affordable housing, after-school programs, even if it means higher taxes.
Really? Progressive policies.
And they also largely oppose abortion bans. So it implies their views are far more fluid and complex than often portrayed by the media. Ultimately, the media's intense focus on young men's supposed shift right might be overshadowing the fact that young women are simultaneously becoming more progressive than ever. And young men's views are still very much developing, still susceptible to change as they encounter new information and experiences.
That's a really important nuance. Now, beyond these specific policies and public perceptions, Project 2025 itself continues to draw very strong criticism from a wide range of observers, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's consistently described, often in stark terms, as an authoritarian takeover designed, as some critics put it, to destroy the legal and governance cultures of liberal democracy.
Strong language again.
Very. Critics warn it allows Mr. Trump to, quote, function as a dictator and destroy any notion of a rule of law. Academics see it as significant executive aggrandizement and a form of democratic backsliding. They warn it risks a dramatic decrease in American citizens' ability to engage in public life.
And there were concerns about loyalty tests almost.
Yeah, concerns about McCarthyism have been raised regarding something called Project Sovereignty 2025, which reportedly aims to research federal workers' backgrounds to identify those who might oppose Mr. Trump's agenda. And it's also worth noting, even some conservatives disagree with the project's stances on areas like climate change and trade. So the criticism isn't just confined to one political side.
And the Democratic response to Project 2025 has been quite direct and quite visible throughout the campaign and since.
Indeed. Very direct. The Biden campaign, for example, launched a website specifically critical of Project 2025 just hours before that key June 27th debate last year. Kamala Harris continued to focus heavily on it when she became the Democratic nominee, making it a central point of her campaign messaging.
I remember seeing the book itself used visually.
That's right. An oversized copy of the mandate was even famously used as a prop at the 2024 Democratic National Convention, really highlighting its perceived significance as an opposing political target.
So we've taken quite a deep dive today. We've looked into the extensive plans laid out in Project 2025 and the early actions that are already, bringing them to life. From this ambitious restructuring of federal agencies to the controversial blurring of public duties with private business interests, it's clear this initiative aims for a really comprehensive transformation.
Yeah.
Its influence is already profoundly felt across various sectors of governance and society. It's truly reshaping what the federal government looks like and, fundamentally, how it operates.
Absolutely. I think what truly stands out is not just the ambitious scope of these changes, but also the remarkable speed of their implementation. And, of course, the wide range of reactions they've sparked, both politically and among the public. It really just highlights the dynamic nature of policy and action and its profound, often immediate impact on daily life for everyone.
Right, and thinking about how quickly these foundational changes are unfolding, and considering those differing views among young people, the varied criticisms we've heard, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In an era where such deliberate shifts are taking place, how might public opinion truly evolve over time? And what new forms of checks and balances might ultimately emerge to navigate these, frankly, unprecedented shifts? It's certainly something worth mulling over as these complex narratives continue to unfold.